The stars were quiet now. For 5 long years, the Terran Federation and the Xyrex Empire had been at war. Planets were destroyed, fleets lost, and millions of lives gone. Neither side truly won, but neither would surrender. Both were proud, strong, and too stubborn to stop. But now something had changed. In the capital of the Xyrex Empire, the great halls of Queen Zeltara were filled with silence. Her warriors stood tall, their silver armor shining, but their eyes showed defeat. The queen, tall and strong with violet skin and sharp glowing eyes, stood near the window of her throne room. She looked out at the twin moons of her homeworld. She hated this peace. To her, peace felt like failure. Her people had never lost a war in over 500 years, but the humans, they were different, small short-lived creatures from a single blue planet. Yet somehow, they had become her greatest challenge. Xyrex had more ships, more warriors, and older technology. But humans had something else. They were clever. They learned fast. They changed their strategies every battle. They didn't follow patterns. And worst of all, they never gave up. So, now she had no choice. Queen Zeltara turned, as her advisor, Lord Carex, entered the room. "The human delegation has arrived," he said with a bow. "They wait in the peace chamber." The queen gave a sharp nod. "Then let us finish what we started." The peace chamber was grand and made of crystal walls that shimmered with soft light. In the center stood a large round table. On one side sat the Xyrex leaders, dressed in long dark robes. On the other, a small group of humans waited. Among them was a man who didn't wear a uniform. He looked out of place. No armor, no medals, just a simple suit and a kind but serious face. His name was Dr. Elias Ward, a historian and language expert. He had studied Xerox history for years and was invited to help with translations during the talks. Queen Zeltara entered with pride, hiding her anger behind a calm face. Her voice was smooth but cold as she spoke. "We are here to discuss peace." The human leader, Admiral Reyes, gave a respectful nod. "That is why we have come. This war has taken too much from both sides." The discussion lasted for hours. There was shouting, silence, and careful words. Lands were divided, borders drawn, technology agreements made. At last, the treaty was almost ready. Then something strange happened. Dr. Ward raised his hand politely. "If I may, Your Majesty, there is an old law in your peace tradition, Article 27b of the Xyrex Peace Scrolls. I believe we have not discussed it." Queen Zeltara narrowed her eyes. "Explain." Ward opened a digital book and read aloud. "In the case of a peace between noble enemies, the losing side must offer a royal bond living and honored to the signers of peace. It is a symbol of respect and future trust." There was silence. Lord Carex leaned close to the queen. "That law is ancient. No one has used it for centuries, but it is still law," Dr. Ward said calmly. "Your legal system honors old traditions, even if they are forgotten." Queen Zeltara stood tall. "You mean I must offer someone from the royal family?" "Yes," Elias said. "And since no other royals were present at the talks—" He didn't finish his sentence. Didn't have to. Everyone in the room turned toward her. Queen Zeltara's fists clenched at her sides. "You cannot be serious. It is your law, not ours." Admiral Reyes said gently, "We only ask that it be honored, for peace." There was a long pause. Then, with a voice filled with quiet rage, Queen Zeltara spoke. "And who would be the receiver of this bond?" Dr. Ward looked surprised. "Me. You." "I'm the one who discovered the clause," he said. "I'm not a soldier or a leader. I'm just a scholar. But the law says the bond is made with the person who speaks it." The queen looked at the human calm, polite, unshaken. This soft-looking man now held her future. She had lost. Not on the battlefield, but through words. "Very well," she said at last, voice sharp as a blade. "I accept the peace, and I honor your law." But inside, she was burning. As the treaty was signed across the galaxy, the war finally ended. But Queen Zeltara was no longer just a ruler. According to her own ancient laws, she now belonged at least by tradition to a human. And the human was not a warrior, but a teacher. What shocked her most wasn't the law. It was that she didn't know what this strange, quiet man was going to do next. The silver doors of the Xyrox palace opened slowly. Queen Zeltara walked through them, her face calm but her heart storming. Behind her, Terran guards and Xyrax warriors walked side by side, a symbol of the new peace. Cameras from across the galaxy floated in the air, recording every step. It was a historic day, but for Zeltara, it was not a day of pride. It was humiliation. She, the ruler of the Xyrex Empire, had just been given away like a gift. Because of one forgotten law, she now belonged to a human Dr. Elias Ward. She didn't even understand how it happened. She had come to sign a treaty, not to lose her freedom. Her face showed no emotion as she entered the Terran diplomatic ship. She didn't look at the humans. She simply walked forward, straight-backed, head held high. Dr. Elias Ward stood waiting. Near the entrance, he looked very different from the soldiers around him. He wore a dark blue jacket and simple black pants. No weapons. No armor. Just calm eyes behind thin glasses and a quiet smile. "Welcome aboard, Your Majesty," he said gently. Zeltara didn't reply. She only nodded once and stepped past. Him she refused to show weakness. The first few days aboard the Terran ship were quiet. The crew was respectful. No one stared at her or treated her badly. She was given her own quarters, large and clean, with soft lights and a clear view of the stars. Still, Zeltara felt trapped. Her wings, once symbols of power, now felt heavy. Each day, Elias visited her quarters. He brought books, news reports, and sometimes tea. "I thought you might be interested in this," he said one day, holding out a datapad. "It's a book on Earth's ancient empires. We had queens too once." Zeltara didn't take it. "Do you think this is some kind of game?" Elias blinked. "No, of course not. You may have won the peace," she said, coldly, "but don't expect me to act like a pet." "I am not your prize." Elias nodded slowly. "I understand. I don't see you that way." "Then what do you see me as?" she asked, her eyes glowing slightly. He paused. "A person, a leader, someone who gave everything for her people." That answer caught her off guard. She looked away. Later that week, she sat alone in her room, reading one of the books Elias had given her. It was about a human queen named Elizabeth, who had led her people during hard times. Zeltara felt something strange as she read, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Respect, maybe even curiosity. How could such a small, short-lived species have such strength? The next day, she asked Elias a question. "Your people, they fight with machines and fire, but also with stories and ideas." Elias smiled. "Because sometimes words win battles better than weapons?" Zeltara didn't smile back, but her tone softened. "A strange way to fight, maybe," he said. "But it brought us peace, didn't it?" She didn't answer. One evening, as the ship floated near a blue gas giant, Elias and Zeltara stood in the observation deck. The room was quiet, filled only with the sound of soft music from Earth. A slow piano song played in the background. "I still don't understand why." "They chose you," she said at last. "You are not a general, not a king. You are a teacher." Elias looked at the planet outside. Maybe that's exactly why. Soldiers end wars, but teachers help make sure they don't start again. Zeltara thought about that. She had spent her whole life training to lead armies. She had studied war, not peace. But now, this human, this quiet man with gentle eyes, was teaching her something new, not with force, with kindness. The next day, a message came from the Xyrex Council. It was short and cold. "The Queen has agreed to peace and must honor thee. Ancient law is such, she is now the property of Dr. Elias Ward. As per Treaty Clause 27b, the Empire will not interfere. All further decisions are now in the hands of her human keeper." Zeltara read it in silence. Then she looked at Elias. So, truly belong to you now? He shook his head. Don't belong to anyone, not really. Treaty says one thing, but I don't see it that way. Then how do you see it? It's a promise that we'll learn from each other. We'll build something better. She stared at him for a long time. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not her generals. Not her council. Not even her family. For the first time, Quinzeltera didn't feel angry. She felt confused, and that somehow was worse. The Terran diplomatic ship, Unity, moved quietly through space. Inside, the mood was peaceful, but strange. Queen Zeltara, the proud ruler of the Zyrex Empire, was still adjusting to her new life. She no longer gave orders to fleets or sat on a throne. Now, she spent her days inside a ship filled with humans, under the guidance of a man who had never fought a single battle doctor. Elias Ward. At first, she kept her distance. She stayed in her room, spoke little, and refused to eat human food. She ignored Elias when he spoke kindly. She believed he was playing some clever game, acting gentle to make her lower her guard. But Elias was patient. He never forced her to talk. He simply came each day, bringing new things from Arth books, videos, strange foods, and music. Slowly, without even meaning to, Zeltara started watching, listening, and thinking. One morning, she walked into the ship's garden dome. It was a quiet space with real plants from Earth, trees. With green leaves, colorful flowers, and the soft sound of running water, birds chirped from small speakers. Zeltara looked around carefully. It was nothing like the cold crystal halls of her home. Elias was there too. Sitting on a bench with a book in his hands. You came, he said, surprised but happy. I needed to walk, she replied, her voice cool. He closed his book. Would you like to sit? She looked at him for a moment, then slowly sat at the other end of the bench. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, she asked, Why are you always so calm? Elias smiled. Because panic doesn't help. And I've learned that listening is more powerful than shouting. She raised an eyebrow. You sound like a priest, not a scholar. Some say wisdom belongs to both. Zeltara didn't answer, but something inside her shifted. Later that day, Elias invited her to the learning deck. It was a room filled with large screens and historical records. He had prepared a lesson about ancient Earth empires and rulers. He showed her images of Queen Hatshepsut of Egypt, Empress Wu Zetian of China, and Queen Victoria of Britain. These were women who ruled great nations, he explained. They faced many challenges, but they led with strength, intelligence, and patience. Zeltara watched closely. They were not warriors, not always. Some led armies, but most ruled with ideas, laws, and alliances. Just like you tried to do, she glanced at him. You think I am like them? Elias nodded. More than you know. For the first time, Zeltara felt something new. Respect from someone who had no fear of her. Over the next few days, she began to speak more with Elias. They walked together in the garden dome. She asked questions about Earth, its animals, its cultures, its strange weather. Elias told her about oceans, deserts, and rain that fell from the sky. In return, she told him about Xerox traditions. The royal hunt, the crystal feasts, and the ceremony of wings, a sacred event where leaders earned their battle marks. You speak of strength, Elias said one day, but I think your strength isn't in battle. It's in how much you carry. On your shoulders. She paused, thoughtful. I never had a choice. I was born to rule. I was trained to be strong, never weak. Then maybe, Elias said softly, being here is your first real choice. That idea stayed in her mind. Long after he left, but not everyone on the ship was comfortable. Some Terran crew members whispered that it was dangerous to have an alien queen aboard. Others believed she should be locked up or kept under guard. After all, she had led the enemy. One officer even asked Elias why treat her like a guest. She was our enemy, Elias replied calmly. The war is over. Peace means we treat each other as people, not enemies. Still, the whispers continued. Zaltara heard them too. One night, as she passed a group of crew members in the hallway, she heard someone say, "How long until she betrays us?" She stopped walking but said nothing. She simply returned to her room. Later, Elias found her staring out the window. "They don't trust me," she said quietly. "Trust takes time," Elias replied. "And time is something we now have." She looked at him. "You trust me?" He met her eyes. "Yes." That one word, spoken without fear, shook her more than any weapon ever had. That night, she opened a small silver box she had carried from her homeworld. Inside was a crown simple, sharp, and shining with energy stones. It was her royal symbol, worn only during battle or leadership ceremonies. For the first time since leaving Zyrex space, she placed it on her head, not as a ruler, but as someone ready to face a new kind of challenge. Queen Zaltara stood in front of the mirror in her room aboard the Unity. Her crown rested lightly on her head, glowing with soft blue light. For the first time since the war ended, she didn't feel like a prisoner. She didn't feel like a loser. She felt herself. She still didn't fully understand Elias Ward. He was gentle, patient, and always polite, yet he had more control over her fate than any warrior ever had. Somehow, without raising his voice or holding a weapon, he had earned her attention, and maybe even her respect. She didn't say it aloud, of course. Not yet. There was still pride in her heart that morning. The ship's alert system chimed across the halls. "Attention. Unknown signal detected. All crew report to stations." Zaltara stepped out of her room and saw Terran officers rushing down the corridor. Lights blinked red. She turned a corner and almost bumped into Elias, who was holding a tablet and frowning. "What is it?" she asked. Elias looked up. A ship appeared out of nowhere. No ID, no response. "It's just watching us," Zaltara narrowed her eyes. "Show me." They moved together to the observation deck. Through the glass window, far in the dark of space, floated a strange, black ship. It had no markings, no colors, just a flat, silent shape against the stars. "That's not Terran," she said softly. Elias glanced at her. "Zyrex." She shook her head. "Not ours either." He tapped his cum. "Captain, send us all the data on the unknown vessel." Moments later, a file appeared on the screen. Zaltara studied the energy readings. Her expression darkened. "This ship, it's using old cloaking tech. Something from the Outer Rim. I've only seen it once during a deep scout mission. Pirates. Ancient tech scavengers. Dangerous." Elias looked serious now. "Why would they follow a diplomatic ship?" Zaltara stepped closer to the glass. "Because I'm on board." Later that day, a message finally came from the strange vessel. It was short and sharp. Sent in an old pirate code: "Surrender the Zyrex Queen, or be destroyed." The Terran captain called an emergency meeting. Officers argued in low voices. Some wanted to fight, others suggested handing over the Queen. "She's the reason they're here," one officer said. "Maybe giving her up will save us." Zaltara heard every word. She said nothing. Elias stood beside her in the meeting room, calm but firm. "We made a promise. She is protected under the treaty. Surrendering her is not an option." The captain looked at him. "Dr. Weir, talking about the safety of everyone on board, this ship has no heavy weapons. If we fight, we might not survive." "I understand," Elias said quietly. "But if we betray peace now, we lose more than a ship. We lose everything we're trying to build." The room fell silent. Then Queen Zaltara stood. Her voice was strong. "Let me go. I am not afraid." "No," Elias said at once. She turned to him. "You are not a soldier, Elias. You don't understand war. Sometimes the leader must be the first to walk into danger. And sometimes," Elias replied, "the leader must trust her allies." That silenced her. As the enemy ship came closer, the Unity powered its shields. Elias worked with the crew to send distress signals. He also sent messages to nearby patrol ships. But help was too far away. They were alone. Zaltara sat in the garden dome, staring at a red flower. Elias joined her. "You're quiet, I am thinking." About what? She looked at him. About you? That surprised him. You do not treat me like property, she continued. You treat me like a person, like a queen. Because that's what you are. She nodded slowly. If we survive, I will remember this. Elias smiled. We will survive. But just as he said that, the lights flickered. The ship shook violently impact. The pirate ship had fired a warning shot. One of the side engines had been hit. Fire teams rushed to respond. The captain's voice came through the speakers. All hands braced for possible boarding. The center of the ship, the crew prepared for a fight. Defense drones lined the halls. A few soldiers held rifles ready to defend the queen at all costs. Zeltara stood beside Elias, calm and tall, like she looked at the frightened faces of the crew. Some of them still didn't trust her, but others looked to her now, unsure but hopeful. Elias whispered, "Are you ready?" She gave a small smile. "I was born ready." The final message from the enemy came moments later. "We are coming aboard. Give us the queen, and no one gets hurt." Elias looked at Exel's single quotes. She turned, walked toward the main airlock, and pressed the intercom. Her voice echoed through the ship. "This is Queen Zeltara of the Zyrex Empire. Oh, if you dare enter this ship, know this. I am not yours. I am not afraid, and I will not go quietly." She looked at Elias. "Let them come." The pirate ship locked onto the Unity. Metal claws extended from its hull, pulling the Terran diplomatic ship closer. Oh. Inside the Unity, red lights flashed and alarms echoed across every deck. Terran soldiers gathered near the airlock, weapons ready. Their hands shook slightly. Most had never faced pirates before. These weren't normal enemies. They didn't follow rules. They didn't take prisoners unless they saw value in them. Queen Zeltara walked calmly into the defense line. She wore a silver cloak over her dark armor. Her crown still rested on her head. Even though she wasn't in her palace, her presence filled the room like thunder. Elias met her near the bulkhead. "You shouldn't be here. It's too dangerous." "I must be here," she said. "This fight is because of me. But you're not a soldier here. She raised one hand. I was born in war. I will not hide while others bleed for me." Elias paused, then nodded. "I'll stay too." The first explosion shook the floor. The pirates were cutting through the main airlock with plasma tools. Sparks flew. The Terran officers raised their rifles. Drones hovered in front of them like steel birds ready to fire. Zeltara stood at the front, beside Elias, her hand on a glowing staff she had brought from her homeworld. It wasn't a weapon yet. But with her skills, even simple tools became powerful. The metal door fell with a loud crash. Smoke poured into the hall. Then came the pirates. They wore armor made from scrap metal and old alien tech. Some had helmets with red eyes. Others had no helmets at all, their faces scarred and wild. They looked more like beasts than soldiers. Their leader stepped forward, tall and broad, with a black metal arm. "I am Verker," he shouted. "Give me the queen." No one moved. Verker laughed. "Foolish humans. You think she cares about you? She is using you. She is Zyrex." Elias stepped forward.
Always.
"She is our ally. You're not taking her." Varker growled. "Then you will all fall." The pirates rushed forward. Blaster fire lit up the hallway. Drones fired blue lasers. Terran soldiers took cover behind shield walls. The fight had begun. Zeltara moved with speed and power. Her staff spun like a blur, knocking pirate weapons from their hands. She dodged attacks with grace. Her wings flared slightly behind her, glowing as they absorbed energy. She struck one pirate across the chest. Another tried to grab her, but she flipped over him and landed a powerful kick. Elias ducked behind a control panel, helping soldiers with commands and directions. "Push them back. Don't let them near the core." Despite being outnumbered, the crew held their line. Zeltara's presence gave them courage. Suddenly, Varker aimed a heavy blaster at Elias. "Your soft words end here, human," he fired. But before the shot hit, Zeltara jumped in front of Elias. Her staff spun, catching the blast. The weapon overloaded and shattered in Varker's hand. Zeltara stood tall. "You will not harm him," Varker roared and charged. The two leaders clashed metal arm against energy staff. He was stronger, but she was faster. The battle between them was fierce. Sparks flew. They fought across the hallway as soldiers continued firing around them. Their duel became the center of the chaos. Elias watched, helpless, as the queen fought with everything she had. Finally, with a quick spin, Zeltara knocked Varker off balance. She struck his metal arm, breaking its joints. Then she aimed the staff at his chest. A bright pulse of blue energy fired. Varker flew back and hit the wall. He slumped to the floor, unconscious. The pirates froze. Without their leader, they began to retreat. "Fall back," one shouted. Terran soldiers cheered and advanced, pushing the remaining pirates out. The airlock closed behind them, and the ship's backup shields went up. It was over. The Unity had survived. After the battle, the crew repaired the damage. Medical teams treated the wounded. The Garden Dome was turned into a recovery area. People talked in low voices about the Queen's bravery. Some of the same officers who once doubted her now spoke her name with admiration. "She saved us. She fought for us. She protected the doctor." Zeltara sat in the quiet of the observation deck. Watching distant stars, Elias sat beside her, holding a cup of tea. "You didn't have to protect me," he said softly. She looked at him. "You protected me first, not with weapons, but with your choices." He smiled. "I guess that makes us even." There was a pause. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed." Elias chuckled. "Perhaps Zyrex queens are not as heartless as we thought." Zeltara looked at him, eyes calm. "I was never heartless. I just didn't have anyone worth opening my heart to." Elias didn't reply. But the silence between them was warm, not empty. Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine. Inside, something new was beginning. Not war, not surrender, but trust. The Unity floated peacefully again after the pirate attack. Repairs were almost complete. The crew worked hard, but now they walked with pride. They had survived, not just because of weapons or shields, but because of something stronger: unity between former enemies. Queen Zeltara had fought beside them. She had saved them, and the humans had protected her like one of their own. In the days that followed, news of the battle spread, back on Earth and in Zyrex space. Leaders listened with interest. Some were impressed, others were suspicious. But all of them had one question: what happens next? The original peace treaty said Queen Zeltara would stay under human protection as a symbol of unity. But after the pirate attack, both sides began to ask deeper questions. Was the treaty enough? Could peace last? Should they do more? A decision was made. A live peace summit would be held aboard the Unity. Leaders from both Earth and the Zyrex Empire would speak. The world would watch. And Queen Zeltara herself would stand with Elias to give a joint message. It would be the first time in history that a Zyrex ruler spoke to Earth, not as an enemy, but as a guest. Elias found Zeltara in the training hall, moving through an old Zyrex combat dance. She turned when he entered. "You walk softly, as always," he smiled. "I didn't want to interrupt. You already did." They both laughed quietly. "I came to tell you," he said. "The summit is ready. They're waiting." She nodded, but did not move right away. Her eyes were distant. "And if I say the wrong thing, if I speak with too much pride, or not enough, will the war begin again?" Elias shook his head. "Speak your truth. That's all anyone can do." She looked at him. "And if my truth includes you?" He paused, heart quietly surprised. "Then, let it include me." The summit began 2 hours later. Every screen on Earth and in Zyrex cities showed the same image: the Unity's great chamber. Filled with Terran officers, Zyrex elders, diplomats, scientists, and translators. Elias stood first. He wore a simple suit, nothing fancy. He spoke calmly. "Today, we do not meet as rulers or warriors. We meet as survivors." You meet as people who have seen the cost of war and now search for peace. He turned to Zeltara. And now the queen will speak. Zeltara stepped forward. The hall became silent. She looked at the faces before her. Humans, Zyrex, enemies. She took a deep breath and began. I was trained to believe that humans were weak, emotional, and dangerous. That peace with them was impossible. That only force would protect our kind. She paused. I was wrong, gasps echoed from the Zyrex side. Some stared in disbelief. But she continued. You were stronger than I expected, not because of your weapons, but because of your choices. When I was captured, you could have caged me. You didn't. When I was hated, you still listened. And when danger came, you stood. With me, she looked at Elias. One man chose to trust me when I didn't trust myself. He saw a queen when I felt like a prisoner. He treated me not as a trophy, but as a voice. Elias blinked, moved but silent. I am still Zyrex, she said. But today, I am something more. I am a bridge between fire and water. Storm and sky, she raised her hand. I do not ask for forgetfulness. I ask for understanding. Let us begin again not with fear, but with courage. There was silence. Then, slowly, hands clapped. First from the Terran side, then from the Zyrex side. Then the whole chamber stood. Clapping in unison, after the speech, Elias and Zeltara stepped outside to the viewing deck. Earth's moon could be seen in the distance, calm and glowing. You were incredible, Elias said. I spoke my heart, she replied. They stood together in silence, side by side. No crown, Elias said softly. She looked at him. I have no need to wear it. Today, I did not rule. I served. He looked at her, and that made you greater than any throne ever could. She smiled, small but real. Later that evening, in her private room, Zeltara opened her old battle case. Inside were medals, maps, and her war armor. She picked up one medallion, the symbol of her house. Then she placed it into a small box and sealed it. The past would not be forgotten, but it would no longer control. Her future, back on Earth. People spoke of her speech for days. Some feared it, others celebrated it, but none could deny it. The Queen had changed, and maybe, just maybe, so could the world. The galaxy was changing. Humans and Zyrex were no longer at war. The treaty that once seemed like a forced agreement now began to feel real. Leaders met more often. Trade ships moved between worlds. People talked, learned, and asked questions. But change was not easy. Some on both sides still feared the future. Some still hated the other. There were protests, angry voices, and even threats. Peace was a seed, small, delicate. It needed care, and it needed hope. Queen Zeltara spent her days working with the human diplomats. She helped translate Zyrex laws, explained old traditions, and advised on how to avoid offense. No longer just a guest, she had become a bridge between the two worlds. Elias was always nearby. He guided her through human politics, science, and culture, answered her questions patiently, and never made her feel small. In return, she taught him the beauty of Zyrex art, history, and silent meditation. Together, they were more than allies, were becoming friends, and something deeper. Though neither spoke it aloud. One evening, as the stars sparkled outside the ship, Zeltara sat in the garden dome with Elias. The flowers she once feared now brought her peace. Do you ever think about what comes next? She asked. Elias smiled. All the time. I mean, after this mission, after the treaty. What do you see? He looked thoughtful. I see a future where your people and mine work side by side, where children don't learn hate, where stories of war become stories of warning, not pride. Zeltara nodded. And where do you see yourself in that future? He turned to her. I hope beside you. She didn't answer, but her eyes said everything that night. The Unity received a coded message. A rogue fleet, neither fully Zyrex nor fully human, had formed near the neutral zone. These ships were angry, lost, and leaderless. They called themselves the True Voice. They rejected peace. They believed the Queen had betrayed her empire. The humans had tricked her. They were coming, not to talk, but to destroy the unity and end the peace. The crew rushed to prepare. This time there was no pirate trick or surprise. It was a real fleet. Large, dangerous, and moving fast. The Terran captain called an emergency meeting. "We have limited weapons," he said, "and this ship is still a diplomatic vessel. Cannot fight them directly," one officer said. "We should evacuate the Queen." Others said we should call for backup, but help may arrive too late. Then Zeltara stood. "I will speak to them." Everyone turned to her. Elias frowned. "They will not listen. They are Xerics," she replied. "I know their hearts. They feel abandoned, lied to. They are not monsters. They are lost." She looked at the captain. "Let me try." The captain nodded slowly. One chance. The fleet arrived in hours. From the Unity's command deck, Zeltara sent a wideband message. Her voice was calm, but firm. "This is Queen Zeltara. You know my name, you know my past, but you do not know my heart. Listen before you fire." The reply came fast, filled with anger. "You chose the humans. You wear their colors. You let them own you." She closed her eyes, then spoke. "No, I chose peace. I chose life. I chose the future. You say I am a prisoner, but in your hands I would be a weapon again, used to destroy, not protect. I will not be that again." She raised her voice. "Look at what you are becoming, pirates, rebels, destroyers. Of hope. That is not Xyrax. That is fear. And fear is not our master." There was silence, a long, heavy silence. Then one ship powered down its weapons, then another and another, until the entire fleet stopped moving. Back on the Unity, the crew watched in disbelief. The Queen had stopped a war with only her words. Elias stood beside her, filled with quiet pride. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she said softly. "We did." In the weeks that followed, the rogue fleet disbanded. Many returned home. Some asked for help. Others joined the peace efforts. Slowly, the galaxy healed. Queen Zeltara was no longer just a name. She was a symbol. A leader who once ruled by fear, now guided by wisdom. A year later, on a new space station built by both Terrans and Xyrex, a monument was unveiled. Two figures stood carved in silver, one human, one Xyrex reaching toward each other. The plaque read, "From war we rose. Through peace we found strength. Together we walk the stars." Elias stood quietly at the base of the statue. Zeltara stood. Beside him, he turned to her. "So, where to next?" She smiled, wings gently opening, "Wherever the stars take us." And together, they walked forward to voices, two worlds, one future.